On this episode of Missouri Life, we're hanging out in Cape Girardeau. You got it? Aww. Good Mo. I'm Meredith Haynes. Thanks for joining us on another exploration of Missouri life. Nestled on the western banks of the mighty Mississippi, you'll find Cape Girardeau, Missouri. It's a community rich in heritage, history, and culture. For more than 250 years, people have been drawn to this town and the river on which it lies. Whether you're hiking a state park, rocking out at a music festival, taking in captivating art, or making friends with locals, if your expectation is a wonderful getaway, then your adventure begins here in Cape Girardeau. Exotic animals aren't exactly the first thing you'd expect to see in Missouri, but for the owner of Lazy L Safari Park, Vicki Lance, feeding a baby alligator or playing jungle gym for a conspiracy of lemurs is part of everyday life. Yes, a group of lemurs is called a conspiracy. Or is it? You must be an animal lover. How many animals do you have on your property?
We probably have around 500 head of animals.
How did it start?
Well, I grew up in the animal business, both me and my husband did, and the zoo is located on my dad's original farm, part of it, and I grew up on a drive-through animal park in the 70s and 80s.
You have very common animals like guinea pigs and rabbits,
Right.
But then you go up to macaws and pharaoh deer, and then you also have alligators.
Yes.
Who feeds the alligators?
My husband feeds the alligators. I can feed the little one.
Carefully, I hope.
Yes, very carefully.
So, what did you start with? What animals did you start with, and then how did you keep growing?
Well, we were already in the animal business. We got married in 1988, and so we were both in the animal business, so we started raising animals. And so really, a lot of the animals you see here are part of our breeding programs. And then, of course, when we opened the zoo, we got different animals that we don't breed, like, birds and different things like that, reptiles and things. But we already had several different animals before we even opened the zoo.
What are the reactions of people when they come out here? What are some of the favorites? What do the kids love?
Actually, the kids' favorites are the rabbits and the guinea pigs. I really don't need all these other expensive animals.
But you have a kangaroo.
Yes, we have a kangaroo.
Zebras.
We did, zebras. Everybody likes the zebras. The lemurs are another favorite because they like to watch them run around and play. So everybody, we did get a sloth this year, so that's been a really big hit.
How does one go about finding animals to add?
Well, we've just been doing this a long time, so we've been in the business. We know a lot of people. There's also exotic animal auctions, other breeders, and we just know each other and we buy and sell. So we basically, we buy and sell trade animals every day too. It's not just the zoo. So we have probably 150 head of animals that are not even part of our zoo that nobody even really sees.
Because you have buffalo.
Yeah, we have buffalo, red deer, audads that are in another field, and sometimes they can see them, but basically they're part of our breeding programs.
Because you guys, a lot of people do you think people realize how regulated something like this is? This is a business that's well regulated.
Yeah, we are regulated. We're USDA licensed. We get inspected every year. We also hold a conservation permit for certain animals. We also have some endangered species, and so we're big on conservation. We like to raise those different animals. And so it's a business, but it's basically a lifestyle. It's just a whole life for us and our kids. We did start something new this year. We're doing our encounter experiences, we call it. So you can come meet Mo the sloth, Gus the gator, Pearl the python. We just got a fennec fox. His name's Sparky. And then we have Ruby the baby lemur. That you can go in our encounter experience room and get up close and personal.
Gus the gator, I should mention, is
he's just a foot long.
big.
He's not very big.
It's not like
No,
Gus
not
the
the big
gator.
ones.
Yeah, no, he's little. You grew up doing this, but obviously it stuck. Not every kid follows in their parents' footsteps. So why do you think you did?
It's just a passion. We all grew up there. My brothers and sisters all do this. We're all in the animal business. My kids all are in part of the animal business in some way or another. It's just who we are. It just, I wouldn't know another life without animals.
Vicki, thanks so much for joining us. How about giving me a tour?
Okay, sure will. Thanks for having me.
Located on the river campus of Southeast Missouri State University, the Crisp Museum displays art from talented, often local artists on one side, and on the other, art, or artifacts rather, estimated to be up to 15,000 years old.
The museum has two parts, the Regional History and Archaeological Museum and then the Art Gallery. And they work together in that they showcase the region from two different points of view. So for the museum itself, we have about 4,000 square feet of themed exhibits that deal with our artifacts from this area. So there's a regional history, riverboat era, Civil War, and how it kind of played in this idea of crossroads, that people really just kind of passed through this area rather than tried to really make the stand here. The bigger parts of the history are in St. Louis and Memphis, and this is just kind of an area that people just kind of cross back and forth. Well, we have a variety of collections. The ones that are most prominent are the Beckwith Archaeological Collection, the Duckworth Mineral and Fossil Exhibition, and the Golden Eagle River Museum. The pottery from the Beckwith Collection is by far the one that gets the most attention. People come in and look at it regularly. They compare their own collections against it, so it's like a textbook example of prehistoric pottery. The other central focal point for our museum is the riverboat collection for the Golden Eagle River Museum, and the biggest piece of that is the big pilot's wheel that's sitting behind me. We have different themes for different time periods, and so there's the Paleo-Indian, the Archaic, the Woodland, and the Mississippian, and we don't know what they called themselves, but these are the names that we've kind of given them based off the tools that they used at different times. So we have those on display, and they're interpreted, one by the murals that are associated with them, but it's also about the artifacts kind of in relationship to each other. Well, this side is a part that's always growing. People always bring us their collections or their objects to be identified. Sometimes they're fascinated by it and they go home. Sometimes they're like, well, I don't really have a place to put this. Why don't we let it stay here for a while and see how it goes? And so our artifacts really are a reflection of the collectors and the passions of the people of this area. Well, when you come into the museum, you come into the history gallery because it's the most obvious door, but it actually makes a big loop around. So you go through the history exhibit, and then there's a short corridor that leads into the art exhibit and back around. We have a permanent collection of artwork that's been donated from a variety of collectors from New York and around the world. We do regional history exhibitions, so there's the high school exhibit that's annual. There's a student show that's annual, faculty that's annual, that we show their work. But we also rent shows and look at for particular artists and see if they'll send us artwork for display. I love the past. I love the objects from the past. I love things. That's what the core of archaeology is. It's all about things, and the museum has lots of things. So for me, I like to take those things because those things tell stories. They're not just objects meant for a museum. They're things that have a living history. The pottery was made to be used. The boat material, all the different wheels and parts, those are all things were made to be used. So it's really a testament to the things and the stories of people as they've moved on.
The Crisp Museum isn't the only place you'll find a combination of history and art on display in Cape Girardeau. Adorning the 1,100-foot-long flood wall along the Mississippi River is the Mississippi River Tales Mural, a series of detailed paintings depicting the history of Cape in chronological order.
So probably in the mid-90s, our Convention and Visitors Bureau and a group of local citizens decided that if we painted some murals in downtown Cape, it would attract more visitors to our downtown area. And then a group of them got together and decided we needed something painted on our flood wall. We just had a plain gray, ugly flood wall that blocked the view of the river, but they said, you know, if we put some murals on there, we could actually make it an asset. And it took about almost a year to paint these murals with a team of probably 6 to 8 artists working. It'll basically show the history of Cape Girardeau over the period of 200 years. And I think there's 24 panels, and each one shows a different aspect of Cape Girardeau's history, historic events. I mean, it's all really, really interesting stuff. Anybody that visits Cape from out of town, one place they always go is the river. And while they're down here, invariably, they will spot the reader boards and the River Tales mural, and they will start at one end and they'll walk to the other end to learn about Cape Girardeau. You know, so it's probably one of our greatest visitor attractions, the river in combination with the mural.
All over Cape Girardeau, the area's rich history is depicted and displayed with art and artifacts. There's even one location where you can walk in the footsteps of Civil War soldiers, the historic Fort D. Once a bustling fort defending Cape from Confederate soldiers, now a footprint of history long past, celebrated with festivals, reenactments, and living history performances.
So in 1861, when the Civil War broke out, the Union and Confederacy clashed north versus south. Well, areas like Cape Girardeau were very much in the middle ground of that, and so Cape Girardeau was the southernmost area of Union control in the region, and therefore the Union put a great deal of emphasis on protecting Cape. And in doing so, built 4 forts, and they got creative with the names, Forts A, B, C, and D. And so Forts B and C protected roads to nearby towns, and Forts A and D protected the river. And Fort D was considered the most important because it protected the southern approach from the Mississippi River. The actual fort itself is not like you might expect from a Civil War fort. In fact, the earthworks around the fort are actually the fort itself. The building behind us was actually not built until 1937. And the earthworks surrounding the area, about 3 to 4 foot high hills, and not what people expect when they hear of a fort. What you would have seen is this area around here with all the earthworks, and then inside of here there would have been tents and other temporary structures set up. But in fact, again, some of the soldiers trying to get an escape from the cold would have actually burrowed into the earthworks themselves, rather than try to maintain a structure in the main area here. So there was not a fort as we might assume today. Instead, the fort was of itself the earthworks around the area.
There is no shortage of places to find a meal and a pint in downtown Cape Girardeau. But if you prefer a deliciously unique flavor profile of beer and pizza, look no further than Minglewood Brewery. For today's lunch, owner Stuart Matthews shared some of the best recipes Minglewood has to offer. Spoiler alert, there were some unheard of combinations. Stuart Matthews, you are the owner of Minglewood Brewery here in Cape Girardeau. I have to ask, where does the name Minglewood come from?
So Minglewood came from a Grateful Dead song. It's the Minglewood Blues.
Is there a balance for local brewers? There has to be a balance between keeping some favorites in stock.
Yes.
And then throwing out some experiments here and there for your fans to come and try.
Great question. So yeah, I have specific beers that are year-round beers, and then I have seasonal beers. And I have a very small location here, so I struggle to hit that balance because people have they have their favorite beer and they come in and maybe it's not on tap. They get angry sometimes. They're like, where's my beer? I've had people walk out. They get angry. They come back.
How many beers can we have fermenting and going at the same time?
I typically try to keep 7 to 9 beers on tap at any given time. It has been difficult as of late because people are drinking it so quickly.
It's COVID.
Yeah. Tell me about it. It's interesting. So I've been struggling with that, but that's typically, and that's about the most that I can do here because of the size. We also carry guest taps of other local breweries from owners that I know and that I really like, and so we're able to combine both of those together, yeah.
So do you want to talk to me about your food that you have here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Go for it.
So we're primarily known for our pizzas. We have personal-sized pizzas. They're 10-inch pizzas. We have a number of different styles, everything from sausage goat cheese pizza to an Italian meat pizza to a mac and beer cheese pizza. And then we have this really big pretzel that people really seem to like quite a bit. And so that's our big seller there. And it's nice to have food and the beer. And I don't know of many people who don't like pizza and beer.
I love both of those. You weren't joking, that looks like a steering wheel.
It's a steering wheel is right, yeah, you betcha. We can turn that around. Yeah, this is the pretzel, this is the mac and beer cheese pizza, and this is the sausage and goat cheese. That's a very popular one as well.
Oh, I like all.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I've never had macaroni and cheese on a pizza.
Yeah, so we wanted to have some unique, different styles of pizza. We have a taco pizza that's fantastic. And they're a little different and they're fun, and we want people to you know, not only with beer, we want them to try to expand their palate, but we want them to do that with the food as well.
I could really use a drink.
I think I can fix that, all right? We'll get some beer poured, all right?
That would be wonderful.
All right.
Is this a beer? Can you guys see this?
Smell it.
Can I drink this?
Of course, yeah. So that's a New England IPA. So that's a juicy, hazy IPA. Has a lot of hop characteristic to it. So if you're not familiar with hops, but it's very soft and it finishes very clean. I use 100% Pilsner malt on that, and one of the characteristics of it, it has a lot of aromatics to it, a lot of aroma, and it has a kind of a juicy. Like mango, different papaya, all different types of descriptors that, yeah, very fruity, yeah. Pineapple, yeah, yep. All different types, stone fruits, flavors and characteristics. Yeah, it's also 7.7% ABV, so.
Okay, we won't be drinking much more of that.
Yeah, so that's actually, I just put that on yesterday. That's the first time I've ever brewed that beer and put it on. This is another IPA. This is a West Coast IPA. This is called Elmer. Now that's going to have a lot more bitterness and bitter characteristics to it, so you may not, if you're not familiar with the hops or that bitterness, you may not particularly care for that as much. But West Coast IPAs I'm a big fan of.
It's very light though.
Yep, I mean.
I think it's light.
I do my best to try to make sure that that's a balanced beer. One of the big sellers that we have is our Kolsch. So this is, so basically that's a beer that was it's from Cologne, Germany. Yeah, that is a really big. It's very similar, I guess you'd say, to a lager, and it has some of that bready characteristic to it. Maybe a little bit of fruity fruit characteristic as well in the finish. Is this popular in the summer? Yes, it's popular all year long.
It has to be popular in the summer.
And this right here is a hoppy blonde. So it's a blonde ale with a lot of dry hop additions to kind of give it a different aromatic and flavor as well. Mm-hmm.
That's a nice beer. And what was the name of this one?
Hoppy Blonde. Yeah, I didn't name it, did nothing else but Hoppy Blonde.
Stuart, I just had so much fun. You have a great ambiance here.
Thank you.
The beer is delicious and the food is delicious. So well done on a passion you didn't know was brewing deep inside.
Here we are.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us today.
Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it.
The sound of engines and the smell of fine leather interiors permeated the downtown Cape atmosphere as the 43rd annual car show got underway. Hot rods of all makes, models, years, and colors filled both sides of Main Street as patrons perused from bumper to bumper, admiring each car, classic and modern alike.
Back in 1977, there were a bunch of local car enthusiasts who went to a car show every year in St. Genevieve, Missouri, and we thought, we can do the same thing in Cape. So we actually formed a club in 1977. That's when we got incorporated, and we had our first car show that same year in 1977, and we've been having one every year since then. Cars come from St. Louis, Memphis, all over southern Illinois. We might even have some here from Evansville, Indiana. There's probably cars that have been here every year since we started our car show. So we have 29 classes this year, and each class has 3 different trophies, first, second, and third. So it's broken down, by what type of car you have. We have a class for any kind of car that exists between 1900 and 2021. I really enjoy doing it in downtown Cape because I'm a big fan of downtown Cape, and that's why we moved our car show down here in 2007 to kind of showcase our downtown area with all the work that we've done to revitalize it.
Barely muffled by the sound of the grumbling hot rods, I could hear the distant thump of loud live music. The 3rd annual Shipyard Music Festival beckoned people from all over Cape and Southeast Missouri to get together for a variety of food, drinks, art installations, children's activities, and of course a lineup of talented musicians eager to play for just as eager a crowd. Jeff Rawson, you have put together a music festival. Tell me about the Shipyard Festival. Where did you get this idea from?
Sure, we started Shipyard in 2018. It kind of came out of this idea of what was needed in a community, in a space where there's not a lot of touring music. And we spent a lot of time talking to folks in the area and asking what was kind of missing or what they'd like to see. And kind of a big outdoor music event kept coming up. So we spent a lot of time researching, talking to people that do this around the country, big cities, small towns, and kind of taking the best of all of those and starting something here in Cape Girardeau.
So what kind of sounds, when you're looking to fill your lineup, what kind of sounds, what kind of music are you looking for?
Sure, we're really a new show, so we're kind of still learning who we are. And that's evolving year over year. And we listen to what people like and what the community likes and what people that come to the show are into. We'd probably lean a little bit more Americana and folk, but we'll put in some pop, some rock stuff, just a little bit of everything. So we have great production teams, great guys that book the bands. We partner with lots of different organizations that do this for a living, and we're just kind of helping facilitate. And then my internal team, we just have great video folks and people that help with volunteers and get that organized. All the little things that happen that are actually big things behind the scene, feeding the bands and taking care of logistics and booking hotel rooms that no one else sees, that's what makes shows like this possible.
So who came up with Shipyard?
We landed on Shipyard as this idea that a shipyard is a place where broken vessels kind of come to become mended and then sent out to work. And that's how we view Shipyard, as a place to bring different groups of people together and maybe unite them through things that we find in common: music, food, good drinks, good weather, being outside. And that's kind of a play on words, and then also just our geographic location where we are to the river made a lot of sense. Each year we tried to add another layer to the show, kind of bring something new. So this year we have a second stage called the Scout Session stage. We have a video series throughout the year called Scout Sessions that are our local musicians doing these kind of stripped down acoustic performances. So we brought in a stage for the 7 we did this year, and they're playing in between main stage acts on that stage. So it's solo singer-songwriter, acoustic. And then our sponsors, our headline sponsors, actually set up interactive experiences throughout the venue. So everything from, there's a shipping container with free nitro cold brews and affogato and espresso they're giving out from a local coffee shop that a church, LaCroix Church, actually puts together. The Bank of Missouri has teamed up with the Humane Society, and they have some puppies in there that people are hanging out with, which is a big hit. Yeah, United Airlines, St. Francis, they're all doing these great build-outs throughout it. So beyond the stage and the food, there's also cool stuff to interact with all day.
You started to think this through. Had you been to a lot of other music festivals? Like, did you go and do research?
Yeah, so I grew up in Southeast Missouri, and my parents didn't give me Lollapalooza tickets or like send me to big festivals. Like, we just couldn't do that, right?
I didn't either.
As I got older, I got to go to more shows and went to Lolla and went to Bonnaroo and these different bigger shows. Was always trying to figure out how can we scale that to a smaller market. I don't have no intention of being, a 100,000 person show. We really like kind of what we're building as this kind of sense of community. So we're taking bits and pieces of those shows, and then we spent a lot of time researching and talking with festival organizers of those shows who are really gracious to give you any information you ask for. Their first advice is always don't do it. And then when you say I'm gonna do it anyway, then they give you all the advice. Because it can be a heartbreaking thing. You're dealing with weather, you have lots of people involved, but the payoff at the end is so worth it.
So would you call this a success? Do you feel like a successful community member in bringing something to the masses?
I feel good. I hope everyone else feels as good as we do about it.
Just tired?
Just a little bit. It's been a long couple of weeks getting it going, but here in a couple hours when the sun goes down and the lights are up, it's just the best experience.
Why does this mean so much to you? Because there are a lot of people who they throw these things together, and it's a little bit of moneymaker behind the reasoning, but you obviously have a bigger connection to the Shipyard.
Yeah, I like seeing people happy. I like seeing my kids happy. So they're out there right now. So at the end of the night, when I get to hug them, and they're having a good time, and the community's having a good time, and everyone's kind of forgotten what's outside the gates, that's the win for me.
With a variety of activities, attractions, and events, you're sure to make some memories of your own. But hopefully somewhere along the way, also some stories to tell. Inspiration, warmth, and hospitality still exist in a place that is uniquely Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Here at Missouri Life, we encourage you to explore our beautiful state and experience all it has to offer. So if you're looking for a daycation or passing through for an evening, here's a quick overnight itinerary to help you maximize your experience. Take a hike at Trail of Tears State Park and admire the beauty of the mighty Mississippi from the scenic overlook. Check out some exotic animals at Lazy L Safari Park. And top it off with your own steering wheel-sized pretzel and a unique brew at Minglewood Brewery. From all of us at Missouri Life, thanks for watching, and tune in next time to spark your spirit of discovery and experience Missouri Life.
Missouri Life magazine explores and celebrates the people, places, history, and destinations that make our state unique. Subscriptions to Missouri Life magazine are available at MissouriLife.com. For exclusive content, full episodes, and much, much more, subscribe to the Missouri Life channel on YouTube and enjoy the journey at your own pace.
On this episode of Missouri Life, we're hanging out in Cape Girardeau.
So in addition to the history, blah, 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 blah.
So I sent her $50 in a note.
Okay.
We never stopped walking.
We did it, it's all right.
Whether it's hiking a state?
They have steak park?
They have steak park.
There's a train coming.
Oh my gosh, there is.
What an episode!
I like that one.
What an episode!